Oh, they're uneven. This will not do. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Nikki, and we are a little weird around here. Well, I am, but I think we're all collectively weird because you clicked on today's video. I'm really loving how a lot of people right now are doing quarterly wrap-ups. I am aware this is May and April has passed and we're already into the second quarter. That is rude. That was rude. You quiet. So I actually just want to talk to you guys about all the books I read in the first quarter of this year. In the beginning of the year, mostly December-ish, I decided to make my goal 60 books. And as of right now, as I'm filming this, I'm at 27 books. I'm 7 books ahead of schedule. So I just wanted to put out a disclaimer. It does not matter how many books that you read in a year or a month or whatever. Reading one book is already amazing and you should be proud of yourself. Don't compare yourself to me. I think reading a book in general is just good for you because I think any kind of book is good for you and it's good for your mental health, I think. So just as an FYI, don't compare yourself to me. And let's just have some fun with this. I think we should probably start with the month of January. I am aware that I do have a January wrap up on my channel, so I am going to briefly go over these books that I read in January, but we will jump through January, February, and March. No, I will not be touching April. That will be the next quarter wrap up. So, the first book that I read in January was Heartless by Elsie Silver. Now, I am slowly making my way through the Chestnut Springs series. If you haven't heard of Elsie, Mira, you are such chaos energy, and I'm loving it, but not when I'm filming. This is a single dad trope. It's a grumpy meets sunshine trope. This follows Cade. He's the oldest brother to the Eaton family, and Willa, she's the best friend of Summer. She's the girl from the first book, and you haven't heard of Elsie Silver, you really should check out her books. They're really fun. They're really fast paced. These are the mirror covers, so I have them all. I collected them before they went out of stock. I think honestly the newer ones that Bloom came out with are gorgeous. These are really quick, fast paced books. If you really love a cowboy romance and you like it to be a little bit spicy, a little bit steamy, I would highly, highly recommend Heartless. 1000%. The next book I read, this is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is about a sorority girl. I can't remember what her name is. It's about a girl named Pamela. Her sorority house gets attacked by a serial killer and she just follows this path of basically trying to get the sorority girls back together. She's kind of solving the mystery of who it is. She sees the perpetrator, and then at the same time we're following another timeline where this girl named Ruth having a really bad past with her family, and she joins a women's only grief group, and at the same time the perpetrator of this book is also in her area. I feel like it's just a gross representation of what actually happened in our own world, and I don't really recommend this. It's also not really a thriller. It's really boring. I don't want to waste any more air on this book. Next book I read was Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book of the Addicted Calloway Sister series, and you know what? I kind of missed this series, to be 100% honest with you. I haven't picked up another one of these books since I've read this. Shame on me because I've been thinking about it and I would really like to continue the series. This is about Lily Calloway and Lauren Hale. They both have addictions. They're both battling it. They're best friends, and it's turns into more than that, and it's actually a really beautiful story, and I applaud Krista and Becca Ritchie. Now, I had some griping with Lily. She's not really my favorite main character, but I think the more you get into it, I think the better it gets. And I would 100% recommend Addicted to You. I hear everyone loves the Addicted and Addicted Calloway Sisters series. It's beloved, and I can see why. It's really good. I don't really want to say any more about it. I think anyone should pick up this book. Next, and then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I really like this one. I think I have a hard time like reading an Emily Henry book and comparing it to Happy Place because that was my first like introduction to her, and this book along with all of her other ones are more along this line. It's still a great book. This is like a Grumpy Meets Grumpy. This is not a Grumpy Meets Sunshine. Nora, she works in the book industry and she's working on this book with a client, and the client writes this big book and it just sells really good. And then we have Charlie here, and he had grown up in this small town that this book was based off of, and they end up bumping into each other at this bookstore. Nora is very relatable, I feel like, to a lot of people, who is a giant workaholic, who likes the big city, who doesn't like the small town very much. She has a sister who's absolutely obsessed with it. There's the side story of her and her sister, and then her and Charlie. You kind of get the whole thing, and Emily Henry just writes a really good book. I loved it. I think anyone should pick up an Emily Henry book, and Book Lovers is no exception. I ended up reading this. Oh, did I mention that Bright Young Woman was a DNF? Yeah, so I actually DNF'd this. I had 100 pages left out of this book, and I'm counting it because I spent all that time to get to like the ass end. This guy, I also DNF'd it after 100 pages. If I read over 100 pages or about 100 pages, I think I read it. I think I gave it a good shot. I think I got the premise enough, and if I don't like it, life is too short to read books you don't enjoy. I tried reading A Discovery Witches. This is kind of like all over the place if you go to a used bookstore, and I'm starting to understand why. All I remember out of this book is that it was cringy and it was poor pacing. All I did was watch her go to the library, eat some food, drink some tea, go on a run, and repeat, and then once in a while go to a steamy yoga session. And that was over 100 pages of this book. I couldn't tell you really what the whole premise is. All I know is that Matthew and Diana have this weird kind of thing back and forth, and he watches her while you sleep situation. I don't recommend this. Don't read this, okay? Like, you could try it on an audiobook, which is what I did, but guys, no. And I can't wait to get rid of it, to be 100% honest with you. I hope someone likes this more than I do. Maybe my brain is just not big enough to understand what the heck is going on in here. I like to think I'm actually pretty intelligent, and this is not an intelligent book in the slightest. Yeah, it has a lot of scientific talk, but to what end? To what end? So here's January. So now we are on to February. So I continued the Elsie Silver train and read Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is so different compared to the other two books that I read by Elsie Silver. The other ones are both cowboy romances. This follows the adopted Eaton brother, and he's a hockey player, and his best friend, which is the Eaton brothers' cousin Sloane, and she's a prima ballerina. I really like this book a lot. Like Jasper, he's so broody, and he's such a golden retriever for her, and he just wants her happy. Like, he is the epitome of wanting her happy, and she's just got a lot on her plate, and her parents are just not amazing, and she's doing things that she doesn't want to do, and Jasper and her just go on this road trip together, and it's just perfect. And I really like it. I can see why this is a lot of people's favorite. It was so good. This is best friends to lovers trope. I couldn't recommend it enough. Just read an Elsie Silver book, okay? Do yourself a favor and just read it. And they're interconnected standalones, okay? You don't have to read them in order. You can read them however you want to. I would recommend reading them in order. All right, after that, I read a book called In the Kingdom of Ice. That is my first nonfiction book. It's in the like 1800s. This is about like literally the USS Jeanette, and in the 1800s they thought that the North Pole was this tropical place. They thought that it was warm water coming down to, like, they thought that, and that's what this voyage was about. This was about a whole bunch of men going up and having an experience, an expedition, this journey to go up to the North Pole and see what it's like up there. And they come to find out there's a ton of ice, okay? It is ice everywhere. They become trapped in the ice for I think about 3 years until the ice crushes this ship, and these men and their sled dogs have to get back to society. That means they have to walk like 200-300 miles on the ice back to like Russia. and it's just this wild story. I mean, this is not for an everyone book, mostly because in the very beginning it's so dry. It is hard to get into, but if you get past like the buildup of how the ship became, who the passengers are, like maybe the funny little stories of here and there of inside the book, and you finally get to the expedition, it's just a wild, wild ride. And it's really good. It's just, I had a hard time with the dogs. I mean, who wouldn't? And it's a true story. This actually happened. It's a real thing, and I was really impressed. It's a wild, wild ride. Honestly think if you want to read this book, you should, or at least listen to it. So after I read that, I read The Love Wager. So this is the Mr. Wrong Number #2. It's an interconnected standalone that Lynn Painter wrote. So this is technically the second book. This follows the first book's brother and then the love interest, Hallie. I think this book was fine. This was my first like kind of like intro into cheesy rom-coms. I didn't like it very much. I think I just didn't like Hallie. I think she was really self-sabotaging. I felt like she just was kind of rude a lot. My guy Jack. This is definitely like an acquired taste. I think some people really like Lynn Painter, mostly for her YA romance novels. I just found this a little too cheesy. I think this is an acquired taste. I think a lot of you would actually like this book. It's cheesy. It's goofy. They have a one-night stand at a wedding and they make a wager, and after they meet up with each other on an app, will go on dates with each other with other people when in reality they obviously want to date each other, but they become best friends. It's the whole thing. And then there's like the fake dating trope is actually in here. It's cute, okay? I'm not saying this is a bad book, but anyway, it's just not my favorite. Sticking with the cheesy rom-com stuff, but way more spicy, I introduced myself to Lucy's Score. So I read by a thread. This is definitely a Devil Wears Prada. This is about Dominic and Allie. Allie is like got a lot on her plate, okay? She has a rough and tough time right now, okay? This girl has some baggage and she's killing it out in the world, okay? And what happens? She serves this asshole named Dominic at this pizza place and she calls him a dick with, I think, pizza toppings or F you or whatever, because he was an absolute jackass to her, and he gets her fired from her job. So because of that, while Dominic was out at lunch, his mom was with him, and his mom owns basically like this fashion magazine, so gives Allie a job as Dominic's assistant. Yeah, it's his assistant basically, and he's like CEO of it. I don't know, it's like this whole family dynamic thing. A lot of people like this book. I liked this book. I think it was too long. I didn't think it needed to be over 500 pages. I really did not think this book needed to be 500 pages. You could have taken maybe 200 pages out and it probably could have had like the same concept of what the heck is going on. And there's a lot about Dom's down there. A lot. I don't need to know all about his bits and bobs, you know, and about what Allie does to his bits and bobs, okay? I don't need to know that, okay? Like, I get it, you know, we understand he's a dude. If I put that beside, it's fine. It was cute. I just don't think this is like my favorite book. I didn't really see this as like a romantic comedy. I just thought this was just a spicy boss assistant romance. But besides the point, Lucy's Score can actually write a really good story. She does a really good job, clearly, because this is a beloved book. But I just don't think I liked this one very much. But I can't wait to hear about talk about series. So then the next book I listened to was actually Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I listened to Mr. Wrong Number. I think it's about Olive and Colin. I like this one, I think, a lot more than The Love Wager. I think the dynamic between Olive and Colin was really good. I liked how it was an oopsie, it was a wrong number, but then they end up finding out. I thought that was really fun. I think everything in this book was a lot more fun. I might be of the minority and think that I like Mr. Wrong Number more than Love Wager. Would I recommend Lynn Painter? Yeah, absolutely. I think if you guys like a cheesy rom-com, you'll definitely like it, especially her adult stuff. Next, after I read that, I read my very first Riley Sager book, The House Across the Lake. If you want to start out with Riley Sager, read this one, okay? This is insanity. It's about this girl. She's basically in hiding, okay? She's got some rough and tough with like some people. Publicity and her don't get along because she's kind of an alcoholic. She's been sent to like the family lake house to like sober up and get clean, but she's like, nah, not happening. So what she do? She picks up her binoculars and ends up spying on her neighbors, okay? Well, she ends up seeing something she probably shouldn't be seeing. But it just gets more crazy and there's so much more to it, and she just is a peeping Tom and I love it. I got some serious whiplash with this book. I like basically threw this at my bestie's face and I was like, read this. Read this. It's like my favorite thriller of all time right now. Like, it is literally my favorite thriller. Have I read any thrillers since then? No, but this is a really good book. Read it. Oh, okay. And then I listened to this at work for the most part. I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This has been on my like TBR for a hot minute, and I'm really glad I read this. It's like a Groundhog Day Clue whodunit. You are this man. I cannot tell you for the life of me what his name actually is because he lives, like his subconscious is in other people's bodies. And every day he has to relive the same day to solve this murder of like who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. And he basically inhabits other players of the game every night until he can solve the mystery. And then he has to like tell the person who's like running the game who did it. It's really good, and if you like an Agatha Christie book, I think you'll really like this. This caught me off guard. This is a great mystery book. I really should read more mysteries because they're a lot of fun, and I don't mean thrillers, I mean mysteries, like puzzle piece books. Ah, it scared me. There's a person there. Hi. God, go away. And then the last book I read in the month of February was If He Had Been With Me. I don't want to go too much into this because there is a video coming out about this book, and if you haven't read that book before, it's about, what is her name? Autumn. Her name is Autumn. She's deeply in love with Phineas. They grew up together, like their moms are best friends, and they have dinners together and they go through school together, and she's just this misunderstood girl and he's like this popular guy, and there's just so much impaction going on between the two. She has this friend group and he has a separate group, and they grew apart. That's basically what it is. And then they have like obviously the second book of the duology just got released, I think in January or February. I think it was in February. I don't plan on reading it at all. The second one, I got enough out of that book. Oh, did I skip a book? I did skip a book. Oh my gosh, I have one more book for February. How many did I read in February? I read Endurance too. So if you think The Kingdom of Ice is really dry, then you should probably try Endurance, because Endurance just jumps like right into the story. I did not get very far into this book. As soon as the dogs, if you're reading a book about a voyage to the North or South Pole and they're bringing dogs, you know what is going to happen to the dogs, okay? You know what is going to happen. And then there's a scene with a puppy in here, and I couldn't do it. I hear this is an amazing story though. If you can get past the dog stuff, okay? If you can get past it, I can't. My heart hurts too much thinking about it. This is supposed to be like an amazing and gripping story because I'm pretty sure everyone survives this one. I'm pretty sure everyone survives in this. And this is the Endurance, the Ernest Shackleton's trip of going down to the South Pole. Let's go to the South Pole? North Pole? One of the poles? Something happens. Landlocked in ice, get crushed, they have to travel back. But that's about it. So I DNF'd this. But I read all of these, plus these other ones that I'm putting up. I read 9. Holy crap on toast. That is a lot of books. But that was February. That was a big reading month. I don't think I've ever read 9 books before in 1 month. So the first book I started to read was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I got like 200 pages in and I DNF'd it. I don't know what it is about The Starless Sea. I think maybe it was too lyrical for me. About this boy who remembers as a young child seeing this door that's painted and that could have taken him to the Starless Sea. And then he finds this book at a library that's written basically about him and a whole bunch of other characters about the Starless Sea. And he's on a hunt trying to get there. And there's these twists and turns, and there's people protecting it, and like every time this chapter changes, it has like a different perspective from a different character in the book he read. There's just so much going on. I mean, it's a beautifully written story. Like, I can see why this book is super beloved. I just couldn't get into it. If you love like literature, like heavy flowery literature, this book is for you. So then the next book I picked up was My Dark Vanessa. If you guys have ever seen like the book Lolita, this is not for the faint of heart, okay? You need to be in a good headspace for this book. There is a reading vlog that will be out on this book, so I'll give more detail about it. But in a nutshell, this takes the grooming of a child. If you haven't heard of what Lolita is, it's about an adult man falling in love with a child. And that is what this is. This is a fucked up book. All right, I think after I read that, I don't have the copy because I read it on my Kindle, it was 1,000 Boy Kisses. You need a box of tissues with that book, and I think it's necessary to get a box of tissues for that book because it's so sad. If you want to have a good cry, go for it. It's quick. It's a really fast-paced book. By the way, there's a second book for, I think, the duology. No, I'm not going to read that. I am not going to put myself through that. Rune and Poppy are best friends from childhood, and then he moves away and then comes back and everything's changed. Everything's different. There's something going on with Poppy. There's something going on with him. No one is speaking, and everyone's got secrets, and I'm just gonna leave it there. If you don't like sad books, don't read it. Like, if you don't want to cry, don't read it. So I think after that, I was tired of reading sad books. So I decided to read The Throne of Glass. I'm trying to read the whole series. I just have a lot going on right now. When it comes out, I will let you know. But there will be a reading vlog of me reading the entire series, and I'm pretty sure it's a spoiler vlog because I feel like I just can't not talk about it. So, and I'm reading it in the order that Sarah J. Maas recommends, even though me personally, I think you should read The Assassin's Blade first and then this. That's how I personally think you should read it. But anyway, I read The Throne of Glass, and you live under a rock if you haven't read this book. And for the third time around, I think I have probably the most fun out of it, and I think I've annotated this book. This is about an assassin. Her name is Selena Sardothian. She is the best assassin that there ever is, and she gets locked up mysteriously, but for some reason they're letting her out to go basically do this challenges for the king. And during her time at the castle, there's Kale. He's the head of the guard, and then there's the Crown Prince Dorian. I love them both. Like, I don't spoil it for me because I've only read books 1 through 3, and it was the perfect thing to read after reading, you know, this. My goal is to read The Kingdom of Ash by the end of the year, so we'll see how that goes. All right, and then the last book I read was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Why do people hate this book so much? Like, why? Like, what? Why? Why do you guys not like this book so much? Walk me through your thought process as to why, because I really liked it. I think, yeah, I understand why some people don't because of, like, near the end. Okay, I get that part, but Poppy and Alex, the quintessential best friends. Clearly there's something going on there. Guys, Alex is literally, I love him. He's so misunderstood, and he's funny, even though he's quiet, and her family is weird, but he doesn't care. She's not even embarrassed to have him around her family, even though she's embarrassed of them. The places that they go, and the experiences the two of them have are so good, and then the crumbs you get throughout everything is really good. Low-key think I might like this more than Book Lovers. That's kind of saying something because a lot of people really like Book Lovers. I really like this book. I don't know why people don't like it very much. Poppy wants to travel the world. Poppy has always wanted to travel, and what does she do? Her and her best friend Alex every year go on a trip together, and it's just the two of them because it's a best friends trip. And when they were in college, that is what they did. They scrounged up every penny that they could, and they went to their very first place, and they did an adventure. And every year they go somewhere different. This one trip that they're on, though, it's different than all the other trips. And when they're on this trip, you get glimpses of their previous trips, and you're trying to figure out why they don't talk anymore, because they had this really big disconnect. For like 2 years they haven't talked. Hey, what are you doing up there? What do you think you're doing? They think they run the house. I read 5 books, so pretend there's 2 more stacked on here. And that's it. Those are all the books that I read in the first quarter of the year, and I can't wait to see the other books that I'll be reading. Clearly I've read some more since then. If you want to know what I've been reading, go check out my Goodreads. You'll see all of my updates there. And I have a lot of projects that I've been working on. The first part of the project will actually be out before this video, so if you haven't seen that vlog, go check it out. It took me so long to get that done, and I feel like I just did not do it justice. I should not hate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit like, follow, and subscribe. It helps me out. If you made it to the end of this video, why don't you guys do like the bow emoji, like the pink bow. I really like that emoji. It's super cute. Until the next time I see you guys, bye. Read some books. It's good for you.